Hello and welcome for a new Lulu Place project. This time the plan is to make a box with hinges out of lindenwood. But as we will see in the process of making that some of the planned features will take a completely other direction. Mainly because of the errors I made, as you will see later in this video, or just because I was just not feeling skilled or experienced enough to apply the idea I had in mind. You will see in a few seconds the type of hinges I had in mind on the screen. Sometimes errors and failures can give rise to unexpected positive surprises. Well, let's get started. As for most of my videos, I use my own musical composition for the background music. This is called A Day in the Forest. I hope you enjoy. We begin the journey by creating roughly two balls out of the pieces of linden. The wood looks kind of punky and promises difficulties to get the proper finish on this. It will definitely need some shellac sanding sealer. Okay, so now the other ball, and I will decide later on which will be the bottom or top piece. Here I made some colored half beads out of UV resin. The idea was to use them on the lid part of the box. We will see later on how I imagined that. But finally they were not applied for other reasons, and that also we will see later on in the project. Okay, this is where the carving and texturing part starts on the lid part of the ball. The idea was to make two rows of placements for the colored resin beads, one more on top and one more downwards, and to fill the rest with some vertical texture lines. Now it's time to finish the top part by creating an incurved space where I could place the hinges and of course the hollowing out of the ball shape. I made a tiny burning line as separation for the textured part and the part for the hinges with the help of a guitar string. I have some laying around, as you may have guessed. So now it's time to hollow out the bottom part of the box and also to make sure the two parts will perfectly fit onto each other. Now that the two parts are fitted against each other on the lathe, I can now fine shape the outside in a more of a global aspect. We are still looking at the top part where I ebonized the textured part with some iron acetate. And because I didn't thought the effect was effective enough, I put on some water-based iridescent color paint. And we apply the same ebonization iron acetate to the bottom part, 2 times in fact, as well as some of my mica powder painting techniques. On the inside of the 2 parts, I forgot to mention that, I impregnated and coated these with some Danish oil. To fix the mica colors, I gave it a quick spray lacquer layer for this bottom part, and as well I put it on the top part. Back at my office desk, I started to colorize the textured parts with some iridescent paint. It's time now to take off the tenon of the bottom part. Here I was not really sure yet if I wanted to put on some feet or something like that, or that I will leave it flat like it is. For the top part, I had to take off the tenon tool and flatten the surface, for I wanted to put something on top of it later on. So this is the chapter of the project where things start to go wrong. Wrong choices are starting to be made, and a slight disconnection in my creative mind with the project, as I was too busy in my head with other things going on, giving rise to inattention to the necessary techniques to be applied for some proper turning. In short, catches. First of all, the wood I'd chosen to glue on the top part of the finishing final was just a piece of cheap lumber I had laying around, and that had the perfect dimensions for the final. But the poor quality of the wood was not a good choice, neither did it any justice to the art piece as a whole. As you will see later, I learned another lesson and hopefully I think twice to make these kind of shortcuts again. That morning, I was too busy with other things in my head than with this project, and that non attention gave rise to a stupid beginner catch. But in the end, as we will see later on, with a surprisingly result. And yes, there it is. I definitely screwed this one up, didn't I? Luckily, you cannot hear the Dutch swearing word that filled up the place. Anyway, now I had to take off this stupid glued on piece of timber and partly redo the outside of this top part. Okay, so behind the scenes I reshaped the outside and took off the damage of the catch. And I must say I was pleasantly surprised to find out that the result was quite nice actually. It triggered other creative ideas where to go from now, and so decided not to use the resin beads on the outside, but to give it a bit of a mica colored look like I did on the bottom piece. First I have to glue on a new piece of wood on the top for the final. One of a better quality this time, shall we? You have to excuse me as I lost some footage for the completion of the final, but as you can see I ebonized it and gave the whole some lacquer layers in the end. Now it's time to finish off the bottom part, and you can see I tried to give it the same sort of treatment as I did for the outside, although I could not get it completely in phase with it, unfortunately. I could do better here. And to catch up with my original idea of applying resin beads, I decided to put one on top of the final to ease my poorly blessed little ego. And here she is, the final result, but without the hinges applied, as I was just too scared to make another stupid decision, as I had no experience whatsoever with these hinges yet. Maybe for another project. Well, thank you for watching and be creative.